Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And today we are going to talk about the hidden traps inside your own mind. You probably think you are in complete control of your decisions and thoughts. But how often are they shaped by something else? Something you don't even notice happening deep inside your brain. Here are 20 cognitive mind traps, biases, and psychological effects that exist within all of us. You might go through life unaware you are carrying these mental shortcuts that quietly influence your day-to-day thinking. You cannot delete them from your brain, but you can learn to notice when they appear. And once you do, you will become a more rational and thoughtful thinker. This series is inspired by Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman and his classic book, Thinking Fast and Slow. Let's begin. The Dunning-Kruger Effect. In 1999, two psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger, asked students to take logic and grammar tests. Afterward, the worst performers greatly overestimated their performance. Many thought they had done better than most of the class. The top performers, on the other hand, slightly underestimated themselves, assuming others must have done well too. This became known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. Those with low ability often lack the skill to recognize their own incompetence. Those with high ability assume their knowledge is common. You see this when the loudest person in a meeting knows the least, or when the most skilled person stays quiet. The effect distorts self-awareness and decision-making. To counter it, you need feedback. Test your assumptions against reality. Ask for critique. True confidence comes from evidence, not ignorance. Loss aversion. Behavioral studies show that people fear losses more than they value gains. Losing $100 hurts about twice as much as winning $100 feels good. This is loss aversion. It explains why investors hold failing stocks, why gamblers chase losses, and why people resist change even when the potential gain outweighs the risk. In one experiment, participants were given mugs and asked to sell them. On average, sellers demanded double the amount buyers were willing to pay. Once something is yours, losing it feels painful. Marketers know this well. Free trial offers, limited time deals, and return guarantees are all designed to trigger loss aversion. To fight back, reframe decisions. Ask yourself, if I didn't already own this, how much would I pay for it? If the answer is less than what you're risking, the loss aversion bias is at work. Availability heuristic plane crashes make headlines. Car accidents rarely do. As a result, many people believe flying is more dangerous than driving, even though statistics show the opposite. This is the availability heuristic. Our brains judge probability based on how easily examples come to mind. The more vivid or recent the memory, the more weight we give it. The news amplifies this. Terrorism, shark attacks, or kidnappings dominate coverage, while more common dangers like heart disease or car accidents feel less threatening. To counter this bias, look at data. Don't confuse vividness with frequency. What you remember most is not always what happens most. Status quo bias. Given two options, most people choose to stick with what they already have. Even if an alternative offers clear benefits, we often prefer the comfort of the current situation. This is the status quo bias. It is why employees stay in unfulfilling jobs, why voters support existing policies, and why consumers renew subscriptions they don't use. In one famous study, participants were given a choice between a new medical treatment and the current one. Even when the new treatment had better outcomes, many stuck with the old one simply because it was familiar. Awareness is the first step. Ask yourself, Am I keeping this choice because it is better or because it feels safer? 5. Survivorship bias. During World War II, analysts studied bullet holes on returning planes. Most damage was on the wings and fuselage. Some suggested reinforcing those areas. Statistician Abraham Wald disagreed. He pointed out that these were the planes that made it back. The missing planes were likely hit in other areas, like engines, which meant those were the spots that needed protection. This mistake is called survivorship bias. We focus only on successes that remain visible, while ignoring failures that vanish from sight. You see it in business advice. We hear stories of successful entrepreneurs, but ignore thousands who failed using the same strategies. We hear about lucky lottery winners, but forget millions of losers. When judging outcomes, ask, what am I not seeing? What failures are hidden? Survivorship bias blinds us to the full picture. Sunk cost fallacy. You buy a movie ticket. 10 minutes in, you realize the movie is terrible. Do you stay or do you leave? Most people stay, thinking, I paid for this, I should get my money's worth. That is the sunk cost fallacy. Money, time, or effort already spent cannot be recovered. Yet people cling to bad investments, failing projects, or toxic relationships because of past costs. In business, companies throw more money at failing ventures to save what they already invested. In personal life, people stay in unhappy relationships because they've already spent years together. The rational choice is to ignore sunk costs and look only at future costs and benefits. Past investment is gone. The question is, what decision gives me the best outcome moving forward? 7. Self-serving bias. When we succeed, we credit ourselves. When we fail, we blame outside factors. This is the self-serving bias. Students attribute good grades to hard work, but bad grades to unfair tests. Athletes credit wins to talent, but blame losses on referees. In business, leaders claim success came from smart strategy, but failure came from bad market conditions. This bias protects self-esteem, but distorts learning. If you never take responsibility for failure, you never grow. To break it, practice accountability. When things go wrong, ask, what part did I play in this outcome? 8. Fundamental attribution error. A driver cuts you off in traffic. You think, what an aggressive jerk. But when you cut someone off, you think, I was in a rush, I didn't see them. This is fundamental attribution error. We attribute other people's actions to their character, but our own actions to circumstances. In workplaces, when a colleague misses a deadline, we think they are lazy. If we miss a deadline, we blame heavy workload. This bias creates misunderstanding and conflict. To avoid it, give others the same benefit of doubt you give yourself. Consider the situation before judging the person. Planning fallacy. How many times have you underestimated how long a task will take? You think a project will take 1 week, but it takes 3. You think traffic will take 20 minutes, but it takes 45. This is the planning fallacy. People consistently underestimate time, costs, and risks, even when they have past evidence of delays. Studies show students underestimate how long assignments will take, even if they've done similar tasks before. Large projects, from construction to government programs, regularly run over budget and schedule because of this bias. The fix is to use reference class forecasting. Instead of relying on optimism, look at outcomes of similar projects in the past. Your future is usually closer to their reality than to your ideal plan. Endowment effect. In one experiment, participants were given coffee mugs. When asked to sell, They valued them much higher than buyers were willing to pay. The simple fact of ownership inflated the price. This is the endowment effect. We overvalue things we own compared to things we don't. It's why people demand more money to sell something than they would ever pay to buy it. It affects investors who hold on to stocks too long, collectors who refuse fair offers, and consumers who keep unused items because they might need them someday. To fight it, detach ownership from value. Ask, if I didn't already own this, how much would I pay to acquire it? 11. Reciprocity. Bias: when someone gives you a gift, you feel pressure to give something back. When a stranger does you a favor, you feel indebted. This is reciprocity bias. Marketers use it constantly. Free samples at stores are not just generosity, they are designed to make you feel you owe something in return. Street vendors hand you a flower, then ask for a donation. Even if you didn't want the flower, you feel uncomfortable refusing. Social psychologist Dennis Regan tested this in the 1970s. In his study, participants were given a soda by a stranger. Later, the stranger asked them to buy raffle tickets. Those who received a soda were twice as likely to buy tickets. To counter it, notice when your decisions are being driven by a sense of debt rather than desire. Gratitude is good, but obligation can be exploited. Authority bias. In the 1960s, Stanley Milgram ran his famous obedience experiments. Participants were told to administer electric shocks to another person when they answered incorrectly. The shocks were fake, but the participants didn't know that. Despite hearing screams of pain, most continued to obey when instructed by the authority figure in a lab coat. This is authority bias. We place too much trust in the opinions or commands of perceived experts or leaders, even when they may be wrong. It appears in workplaces when employees agree with the boss without question. It appears in politics when people follow leaders blindly. Respecting authority can be useful, but blind obedience can be dangerous. Question the instruction, not just the instructor. B. Social proof. If many people are doing something, we assume it must be correct. This is social proof. You see it in restaurants with long lines, in products with many reviews, or in applause that spreads through a crowd. One person claps, then another, until everyone is clapping without knowing why. Solomon Asch demonstrated this in his conformity experiments. Participants were asked to compare line lengths. When Confederates in the room deliberately gave wrong answers, many participants also gave wrong answers, simply to conform with the group. Social proof drives trends, fads, and herd behavior in financial markets. To resist, ask, am I choosing this because I believe it or because everyone else is? 14. Optimism. Bias. Most people believe the future will be better than the past. We think accidents, illness, or failure are more likely to happen to others than to ourselves. This is optimism bias. Studies show that smokers acknowledge smoking causes cancer, but believe they personally are less likely to get it. Newlyweds know divorce rates are high, but believe it won't happen to them. Drivers admit accidents are common, but rate themselves as safer than average. Optimism bias can motivate us, but it can also lead to risk underestimation and poor planning. To stay grounded, compare your expectations with actual statistics. 5. Hindsight. Bias. After an event happens, we believe we knew it all along. This is hindsight bias. After a stock market crash, people claim they saw it coming. After a sports team wins, fans say the outcome was obvious. After an election, analysts argue the signs were clear. But before the event, predictions were far less certain. Hindsight bias rewrites memory, making outcomes feel predictable that were not. This bias prevents learning. If you think you already knew, you don't reflect on what you missed. To counter it, write down your predictions before events. When outcomes arrive, compare them honestly. The Pygmalion effect. When teachers expect students to succeed, those students often perform better. When expectations are low, performance drops. This is the Pygmalion effect. In a classic study, researchers told teachers that certain randomly selected students were gifted. By the end of the year, those students showed higher improvement in IQ scores. The only difference was teacher expectation. The Pygmalion effect shows that belief and attitude can shape reality. Leaders who expect more from employees often get more. Parents who expect more from children often see better results. Expectations act as self-fulfilling prophecies. Be aware of the ones you set for yourself and others. Negativity. Bias. Negative events have more impact on our thoughts and feelings than positive ones. Losing money hurts more than gaining the same amount. Criticism sticks longer than praise. Studies show that marriages require at least 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction to remain stable. News media thrives on negativity because negative stories attract more attention. This bias evolved for survival, but today it distorts perception. To balance it, deliberately notice positive experiences. Record wins, gratitude, and progress. Otherwise, negativity will dominate memory and decision-making. Groupthink. When groups make decisions, the desire for harmony can silence dissenting voices. Members avoid conflict, leading to poor choices. This is groupthink. Examples are abundant. The failed Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961 was partly caused by groupthink, as advisors hesitated to challenge flawed plans. Corporate failures like Enron also showed how group conformity blinded decision-makers. Groupthink thrives when authority is strong and dissent is punished. To fight it, encourage independent thinking. Gather opinions separately before discussion. Make disagreements safe. 9. Anchoring bias in negotiations. You walk into a store. The first thing you see is a jacket priced at $500. Later, you find another jacket for $150. It feels cheap, but only compared to the first one. This is anchoring bias at work. The first number sets a mental reference point, even if arbitrary. In negotiations, the first offer often sets the anchor, pulling the final outcome closer to it. In one study, German judges rolled loaded dice before sentencing a woman. Those who rolled high gave longer sentences, even though the dice were irrelevant. The lesson: set your own anchors before entering deals, and resist numbers that don't reflect reality. The IKEA effect. People value things they built themselves more than things of equal quality made by others. This is the IKEA effect. In experiments, participants who assembled IKEA furniture valued it more highly than identical pre-assembled furniture. The effort invested increased attachment. This effect explains why DIY projects feel rewarding and why people defend their own ideas passionately. It also explains why companies encourage build-your-own experiences. The risk is overvaluing what you created, even if it is flawed. Recognize the bias and separate personal effort from objective quality. That's all for today's video on the hidden traps inside your mind. These biases and effects shape your daily decisions more than you think. If you found this helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who would benefit from learning how their brain really works. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.